I'm Catherine Valadares. I'm the Vice President of Enterprise Solutions at Nextiva, which basically means I run our architecture and engineering team. So unlike the other two that came up here, Nextiva is enterprise. So I'll just stick with that because that's what I know best, and I am a little bit biased because I run that part of the organization. But Nextiva is the provider of all things communication. So our baseline is SIP. So we do offer SIP trunking. From there you can go to UCAS, from UCAS to CCAS. And then what I actually sell the most, and what gets me up in the morning, is virtual agency and the ability to sell automation and AI as a service, which is a little bit different than UCAS. So we do have the full suite. I would also say that one thing that's unique about us is that you can slice and dice that any way that you'd like. So if you have a customer that happens to be in a hybrid scenario, i.e. they want SIP trunking to a PBX, but they have a remote or satellite office that they want UCAS, we can do that all in the same account with the ability for extension dialing and DID pooling, whether or not they're fully UCAS or fully hosted or not. In addition to that, if you want to get exciting, you can add artificial intelligence to that. So the ability to do virtual agency and utilize bots in those types of scenarios. So we do have the full suite. The newest and latest of Nextiva that has gone to market is really more geared toward SMB, which is not my lane. But we have incorporated into our operating system CRM. So for the small, medium businesses that are utilizing spreadsheets or QuickBooks in customer management today, we offer that as part of the UCAS solution. So within the platform itself, you have the ability to manage those clients. You have the ability for service and sales capabilities. So whether it's quoting or any type of sales motion and or it's service, you want to tee up tickets and things of that nature, that's all built into the UCAS platform. So it's a full suite of communication tools.
Yeah, that was a lot to say in that short of time, by the way. So,
right.
But no, quick question. I mean, you obviously represent enterprise, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But obviously, Nextiva also goes very low in the user counts and things like that. You mentioned CRM kind of built in as an option, but maybe talk about from a small business perspective what makes Nextiva unique, and maybe why somebody should think about Nextiva even for the small size too.
Yeah, so we definitely take any customer from one seat up. So we have no minimums in terms of who we service or support. But from the infrastructure side, we are the most robust voice provider in the US today. So if the customer is looking for a service that works, Nextiva should absolutely be top of mind. One of my taglines is that when you get into this space, UCAS is somewhat of a commodity at this point. All of us have special bells and whistles, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. So that's something that we communicate with a lot of our customers. We have a data center right here in Miami, so that would be closest to this geography, but we have 8 in the US alone. So again, if redundancy and having services that just work is most important, regardless of size of client, Nextiva should absolutely be top of mind.
Yeah, I know you and I have chatted before, and some of maybe talk about some of the white glove type stuff.
Yeah.
And getting customers to move and utilize more of the technology, maybe some of the things that your team does to try and facilitate that happening and make sure they automate more and more.
So in the enterprise space, we've basically completely revamped post-sale. So everybody's throwing everything at pre-sale. Everybody's got the best pre-sales engineers. They've got the best sales guys. They're spending all the money on the pre-sale, and then they close and it falls apart. So we've actually spent the last 12 months at Nextiva building up enterprise on the back end. So as an enterprise customer at Nextiva, you get a pod style support, which is a little bit different. So you get your own DNS route, your own email address, so that we can track the volume of interactions that you have with us, but you have a dedicated team. That's different than most providers where you go into a generalized queue, even though it may be an enterprise queue, it's a crapshoot on who's going to answer the phone. On our side, this dedicated team is involved pre-sale. So you get to know who your account management and who your support reps are before you even sign the deal with Nextiva. And that allows them to have a really good understanding of what's happened in the pre-sale, what are the expectations that were set, what is the solution that we're putting forward, and more importantly, simply because my team is trained heavily on selling in a crawl, walk, run fashion, meaning that we don't want to just rip the Band-Aid, we want it to be seamless from the customer's experience, but this team then allows us to keep track of that so that nothing falls off. So when we get to phase 2, 6 months down the road, you're not having to be responsible for following up. We're doing that proactively on your behalf, and we're always upselling, cross-selling on your behalf with highly educated enterprise support across the board. So there's a lot of that happens. Included in that service is on-site installation and support. Those are not utilizing a third party. Those are Nextiva badged employees and technicians. They will go on site for installation training. They will also go on site in the future should there be a troubleshooting issue that's necessary. So we're one of the only UCaaS vendors that does that with our own team. We don't supply a third party for that.
Yeah, and last but not least, what are a couple of questions that should open the door for Nextiva to come in and look like a home run if it looks and smells and looks like Nextiva?
So again, if reliability is the number one thing for the client, and their phone service is their vital lifeline, we have, bar none, the best reliability in the industry in the US. In addition to that, they can connect to us in any way they'd like. So we have peering relationships with the top 14 SD-WAN carriers, the top 26 ISPs, and they can even cross-connect to us in an MPLS network if they choose to do so. Where I sit, and where I want everyone to go, is to start thinking future. And what I mean by future is now. Automation is what I sell it all day long. I actually sell more automation than I do voice. Questions that you can ask to open up that conversation with your clients is, what is your automation strategy? If they look at you crazy and ask, what are you talking about? You get to have a conversation of how natural artificial intelligence is in our every single day life. How many of you in this room have talked to Google, Siri, or Alexa in the last 7 days? Every single person. So that is a natural part of how we do business. So having that conversation and being the one that asks your customer, hey, how do you plan on competing with the Joneses in the future? How do you plan on taking payments at 2:30 in the morning if your customers want to do that? How do you plan on planning for the next? COVID was one thing, what's the next thing? And what is that gonna look like? And is that gonna kill you as a business? Or are you gonna put in some automation strategy into your plan so it doesn't kill you as a business when the second wave hits?
Cool. Well, I tell you what, give it up for Catherine at Nextiva.